Hello, friends. Welcome to the Nope Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Kohlberg. This is episode 400. I just need to pause for applause. Like 400 episodes. This feels like a mammoth achievement. Some of you have been with me since the beginning. Thank you so much. Some of you who have joined me along the way. It's a podcast is a labor of love, I suppose, unless you're like really famous and have lots of sponsorship. But mostly, a podcast is a very solo journey and a labor of love. And even without editing, as those of you who know, this is a one take, no fake kind of show, quite a bit of work. So I'm just taking a moment to celebrate myself for making it this far, celebrate you for coming along the journey with me. I appreciate you. I appreciate people's emails, their donations, their comments, their shares, their likes. It means so much, especially as a smaller business. I always find it interesting that people seem to be so quick to run, comment, like, share really established businesses, but everybody kind of knows who they are. And if you were like the level of Oprah, Tony Robbins, someone like that, they probably wouldn't even notice. But I notice every comment, every share. I try to get back to all of them, but it isn't always the case. But whether or not I respond, I notice it. So I thank you so much for that, and I appreciate it. So I was not sure where to take this episode. Firstly, before I get into, the meat and potatoes if you're vegetarian, of today's episode, my daughter and I are going to see Hamilton today. I cannot wait. I don't know, this is my third or fourth time seeing it live. First time that it's toured in this iteration. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it live. And on Disney, there's the Hamilton, and then there's a Hamilton sing-along. I swear, if you are ever kidnapped and the only way that you can be saved is if the person that they ring to save you can recite the entire Hamilton song list, I'm your person. Call me. I will save you. Except I don't answer my phone, being an introvert, so text first. Ask the kidnapper, text the Nope Coach, ask her if you can call, and then she will recite, sing, perform the entire repertoire of Hamilton, and you'll be saved. So I'm really looking forward to that today. Also, if you haven't been on my website recently, SuzanneKohlberg.com, shameless plug, I have done some, big noting myself. Birdie is like my biz wife who does all the behind the scenes stuff and makes the magic happen. I just turn up, hit record, and yeah, I'm not that tech savvy. I can do the basics. But Birdie and I have redone almost my entire website with the help of Lara Eastburn. So if you have any struggles, I'm not being promoted for this or paid or whatever. It's not a paid endorsement, but in articulating what it is that you do, highly recommend Lara Eastburn. But yeah, I absolutely love my website. Every time it iterates, I love it even more. In the past, way back when I was early in business, I had website shame. So if any of you are listening to this and you're like, I made a website because I was told to make a website, but I cringe inside, I feel you. I was there for so long. I was like, yeah. People are like, have you got a website? I'm like, yeah, in that really high-pitched voice. Now I'm like, yeah, my website's fucking fabulous. I really highly encourage you to check it out. Make yourself a cup of tea, coffee, beverage of your choice. Go to SuzanneKohlberg.com. Enjoy. I'd love to hear your feedback. So send me an email, info@SuzanneKohlberg.com. What did you think? Anyway, today, inspired by the website. Although I work with people pleasers, martyrs, overgivers, I personally never resonated with any of those terms. I just thought I was a really good friend. And in articulating my work, in articulating what I do, I've used those words because they are the hashtag, they are the SEO, they're the ones that stand out. But I'd love to know if you too are a people pleaser, like from listening to this show or, those of you who've worked with me, did you ever really identify with the term? Because how I would describe myself as a good friend, somebody who avoided conflict, and somebody who couldn't say no. Those terms aren't SEOable or make big headlines. So if you head to my website now and go to my About page, there is a story, which I'm going to share in more detail with you today. But basically, the headline of my About page now is, I was sitting in the toilet stool when I heard her say. So rewind way back, I was brought up to be a good girl. And I'm sure my parents had the best of intentions because all parents do. You want what's best for your child. And we were taught to never ask for anything, that children were seen and not heard, to buy anything, always be polite, always be nice, and others first, yourself last. That was literally the school motto of the school that I went to. Others first, yourself last. Like, I could unpack that whole now. Anyway, I'm not going there. So for years and years and years, I was a really good chameleon. People would do stuff. Oh yeah, sure, I'll into that. Like, I will watch Japanese anime. I will, go to this event. I will go watch horror movies, like scary movies and stuff, because that's what the people around me liked. But I didn't like any of those things. But I didn't want to rock the boat and I wanted people to like me. So whenever anybody made a suggestion, I was like, yeah, sure, I'm in. Because I was scared that if I said, no, I'd rather do this, then I would be abandoned, isolated, ignored, have no friends. And obviously, that has changed. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the Nope coach and talk about boundaries and putting yourself first. So I was recently asked, like, what was the pivotal moment? And I can't say that there was one moment where I was like, fuck this, and changed my entire life. There was a series of unfortunate events. I think that's a book, or maybe it's a series. But the one in particular, which I speak about on my about page of my website, is so when my daughter was born, we lived in a small town, and I used to do my grocery shop on Wednesdays. And I'd met another mum at mum's group, and I'd see her at the grocery store on Wednesdays as well. And she did not have a car, so she didn't have a vehicle. So she would push her son to the bus stop, and then kind of somehow maneuver his pram or stroller, depending where you live in the world, onto the bus. And then after the supermarket, I'd see her with the bags shoved underneath, tied to the sock, hanging off everywhere. And I was like, that must be, I can't even imagine how tough that is to navigate. So I said to her one day, hey, we do our groceries on the same day. Would you like me to swing past your house, pick you and your son up? You can pop his car seat in the car and we can do our grocery shop together. And she was like, I would love that. So on Wednesdays, I'd pick her up. She'd put her son's car seat in. We'd drive to the shop. We'd buy our groceries. Then she would tie her bags off and I'd leave my bags open. So when we opened the boot or the trunk, if those of you in America, we'd know whose bags was who with just a simple glance. It was great. We had conversations. The kids, I was gonna say the kids got along, but they were babies. So they cooed at each other. Anyway, there was no worries at all. What started to happen was, say on a Saturday or a Sunday or midweek between our shop, she'd send me a text and say, hey, I'm out of milk. Can you quickly run me to the shop? And I'd say, yeah, sure. Okay, no worries. So what was once a week became twice a week. Then kind of became every other day. I'm out of cereal. I need some more nappies. And then, I need to go to the pharmacy. I need to go to the doctor. My in-laws are visiting. Do you mind picking them up from the airport? Now, today me would have nipped this in the bud way sooner. But past me, I didn't know how to say no. I was a good friend. I liked helping. And in the beginning, I offered to take her to get groceries. When it became, could you go to the airport to get my in-laws? The airport was an hour from my house. And I justified it in my mind going, well, at least it's not the red-eye flight. Like she's not expecting me there at 6 a.m. But never once did she volunteer any petrol fuel money, like to contribute. But the thing is also, I didn't ask. So I do need to own that. But when you think about it, like if I was to ask someone to drive an hour out of their way for me, I'd be like, here's the petrol money. But anyway, I digress. So this became more and more till almost every other day I was doing something for this woman. And also, I do want it really stated that I never said no. I never asked for any recompense. I never spoke up about this. And then one day it was her son's birthday and she had the birthday party at the park. And she said, can you drive us to the park? So I did a number of trips back and forth. And then the in-laws were visiting and she wanted to go out immediately afterward. So and she'd borrowed stuff. So everything came back to my house and she just dumped it there, went off with her in-laws. And there was like cake and stuff drying on my knives that, would have stuck. And, like I'm not overly whatever, but I just couldn't leave it. So here I am kind of, begrudgingly washing all the towels and blankets, doing the dishes for a birthday party that wasn't even mine or my kids. And yeah, I must admit, in the back of my mind, I did feel a little kind of resentful. But also, the in-laws were there. I knew what it was like to have family live interstate, so I didn't say anything. And that was that. Then a few weeks later, we were at a mum's meeting. So when the kids are little and your mums meet up and you go to different venues, and I was in the bathroom stall. So it was like a toilet block, and I was in the stall. And this woman came in with another friend. They did not know I was in the stall. And the friend invited her to this thing. And she's like, oh, do you want to come to this thing? And then she's like, oh, I forgot you don't have a car. So yes, sorry, like you won't be able to get there. And she's like, oh, Suzanne will take me. She's my little bitch. And I can remember my heart tightening, my chest constricting. I can remember the tears threatening, like I can feel the emotion welling up. And I was like, the saying, the truth hurts? I think that saying is so true because I was her little bitch. I hadn't realized it because all these little things, like as I'm relaying the story, they say life's lived forward and understood backwards. I could see so many times that I could have stepped in. I could have said no. I was overdoing it. I was her little bitch, but I'd done nothing. And then to hear it so callously and offhandedly, like she didn't care and she wasn't appreciative and she didn't even have to ask, oh, Suzanne will do it. She's my little bitch. That stung. And there I can see I was a people pleaser. And people pleasers, another way they're known is as doormats. I was totally a doormat. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. But sometimes doormats, people pleasers, become exploding doormats. And when someone pushes too far and you retaliate, it is not clean. It is not boundaried. It is not healthy. So that friendship dissolved rapidly because I didn't realize. And I think sometimes if someone asks you to do stuff, hey, or you offer to do something, hey, I'll take you to the groceries once a week. The thing is, it doesn't become every other day overnight. It becomes, it's slow, it's gradual. It's kind of like, gaslighting where the lights are flickering and they're slowly adjusting it. Like if it had gone from, hey, do you want me to take you to the groceries to be my bitch every other day? Of course. I would have been like, no. But it was slow, it was gradual, it was over time. I thought I was being a good friend. I thought I was being, generous. But the difference, the other thing that I work with, and I realize now, is that I was an overgiver. A lot of the people I work with, they don't resonate with that term. I'm not an overgiver, I'm just generous. Generosity, the original offer was generous. Hey, we're going to the shop at the same time. I see you catching the bus. You want to come with me? Because it didn't put me out. I was going to the shop anyway. That's generous. When it's, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Hey, can you go and get my in-laws from the airport? Hey, can you clean up after my kid's birthday party? That is overgiving because it is beyond. It is at the expense of what you're having anyway. Generous is, I'm doing this anyway. It's not really putting me out. Let's go. Overgiving is putting my life on hold and my things to go and be of service. So I really hope that from this story, if you are perhaps a people pleaser or an overgiver, you can be like, oh, yeah, maybe I am. And how can you begin to alter that? Because sometimes we pendulum swing completely the other way and we become everything we fear. Because if we get so frustrated, we get so resentful, we get so, upset that we do lash out. And then that thing that we feared all along, we become in the pendulum swinging the other way. So beginning to say no to people isn't like, I used to have these little drawings. I don't have them handy right now. But when we have no boundaries, everything and everyone can get in. Sometimes we go to the opposite and have such rigid boundaries that nobody can get in and we can't get out. And we are so isolated and so lonely and all the things we fear. And then we think, well, this is horrible. So I'm going to go back to the other way. And we pendulum between these two extremes of doing everything for everyone except ourselves and then being an island of aloneness. And both situations are kind of shit. So it's like, how do we foster the healthy middle where we can say no to others so we can say yes to ourselves? So if one end of this spectrum, like when I was doing everything this woman, is so selfless, and the other end where you're like selfish, where is the middle that is self-full? And it's funny, my son Casimir, a few of you have heard me speak about him. He's been on the show a couple of times. Someone said to him once, not that long ago, "You're so full of yourself." And he just kind of looks them up and down. He's like, well, who else would I be full of? And I just love that attitude, because if someone asks you to do something that is going to put you out, you can say no. You can choose to do it if you want to, or you can choose, like if that person said to me, hey, can you go to the airport to get my in-laws? And I had said no, or I could say, yeah, but you'll cover the fuel, right? Like, or not. They could have called a train. They could have, well, actually, would have been a train and a bus and a situation. But the thing is, it's not yours. Like, I think the other thing with, people who are people pleasers, good friends, is sometimes we can get over responsible. Like someone will come to us on their bare bones of their ass, panicking about how we're going to do this. And we kind of have this like savior complex thing. But they could catch an Uber, they could catch a taxi, they could catch a train. At the end of the day, they could hire a car. It's not up to us to save, rescue, sort other people's stuff out. It's up to them. And if someone says, hey, do you want to do this? And you say no, and then they make it mean that you're the worst person in the world and you don't care about them or whatever, are they the kind of people that you want in your life? And sometimes you've got to face some hard truths. The truth hurts. It's like, wow, these people aren't my friends. They're taking advantage of me. And when I'm not the person who does everything, then they're no longer interested. It hurts for a bit. And it reminds me, and I've spoken about this before, and you can go back through previous episodes, look up empty elevator. But Martha Beck, she has this concept called the empty elevator. So our lives, each of our lives are like an elevator, and everybody who is in our elevator is all the people who are in our lives. So basically what I had to do is I had to let this friend off. And sometimes when you let one friend off, multiples follow and it becomes a turf war. Like, we're not even getting into that today. But sometimes you let a lot of people off your elevator, it can feel kind of lonely. But then the elevator travels between floors. That's the time that you're alone for. And when the doors open on the new floor, all the new people can come in. And some of those people, those people are so much more aligned with you, and they're easy and they're fun and they're light and they're connected and they respect your boundaries. I actually really admire that you have them. And then your life becomes amazing. And then what the other interesting thing that happens is sometimes people who you let off down here, you meet again because they've traveled up in a different elevator bank. They've had their own journey. I've had people who I let go from my life a couple of years ago who have done their own work, and I've done my work, and we've met again, and we've had such a healthier, deeper, like, I remember why I loved them in the first place, but I also don't have to take shit, and they don't have to take my shit. I'm not perfect. I know that I have my own stuff, but doing this work on yourself, working out what is a priority for you, what you will and won't stand for. Like, I don't do DMs in any way, shape, or form aside from memes, GIFs, and reels. Like, funny, I DM funny, but in terms of my business, I don't conduct any of my business via the DMs. I think unsolicited DMs are the dick pics of the freaking online business world, and it drives me crazy. And there was so much fear in the beginning, like, if I don't answer every single person who messages me, I'm never going to have a client. But you teach people how to treat you. Like, if you want to get in contact with me, I'd love to talk to you. Go to my website, suzannekohlberg.com/contact. It says that on my YouTube. It says that on this podcast description. It says that on my Instagram, my Facebook. I direct people where to go. If they're too fucking lazy to read that and they're going to start doing this DM thing, like with Facebook, with my business page, I can turn it off. You can't even DM me that way. It's heaven. With Instagram, you can't turn it off, but you can make it hard for people to DM you. And, in my personal Facebook, most of it will just go to the spam folder, which I never check anyway. But like it clearly states, I use this for personal. If you want to contact me about business, go here. If you're not going to respect me from the outset, then I don't think we're going to work well together. And you get to set those boundaries for yourself. You get to go from the person crying in the toilet stall thinking that everybody, only likes you for what you can do from them, to the person who goes, I'm fucking awesome and I'm worth the effort of, having to go to a website and hit contact, or having to, take a little bit of effort for, because I'm done being taken advantage of. I get so many emails like a week. Dear sir, madam, I can fix your Instagram, or I can get you on the first page of Google. Did I ask you? If you were so good at your job, would you be randomly messaging people, or would you be sold out and with a wait list? So you get to set the standards for your life. You get to do the things that you like to do. I love that my show's not edited. I love that I meander all over the place in my episodes. Some people can't stand that. They're telling me I need to structure it. I need to tell less stories. I need to tell them what I'm going to tell them what I told them, have a clear call to action. And that works for them. It doesn't work for me. When you become unapologetically you and give yourself permission to just do the things that you love, your life changes, and that has a ripple effect that no formula, no dot points, no following someone else's blueprint is ever going to give you. And if you get nothing else from listening to my shows, I hope that you get that, you can be your weird, let your freak flag fly, and people will love it. Some people will. The people who are supposed to be in your elevator will come running. And the people standing outside with their arms crossed saying, you can't do this. You got to do it like this. If you did it like this, like I remember I've received many a message along the way when people's like, I'd work with you if you didn't swear. I was like, well, you wouldn't fucking work with me then, would you? Because when people are telling you how to be so that they can feel comfortable around you, that is not your work. That is theirs. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been episode 400. I love this show. Let's see how the next 100 episode goes. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.